In 1217, November the 5th, 2 constitutional charters were sealed in St. Paul's by a 10-year-old king. One was the Magna Carta, one was the Charter of the Forest. And the Charter of the Forest was the first environmental charter. It was the first charter to demand everybody had a right to subsistence and everybody had a right to access raw materials to enable them to work. And it was a very subversive piece of legislation. And it said, these rights shall be forever.
The idea that people would be debarred from accessing the resources they need to live and thrive was completely unthinkable at the time, around the world. That changed really dramatically in the centuries following as the right to habitation was broken down. The Charter of the Forest was systematically violated through a process that we now know as enclosure, which was basically a process that acted over a number of centuries to dispossess people from the lands that they had traditionally inhabited. That land was enclosed, effectively privatized by wealthy elites, by nobles, by landlords, because people were unwilling to leave their own subsistence farming patterns and go do backbreaking labor for very small wages on somebody else's farm. It just didn't make any sense for them. They'd much rather continue to live their existing lifestyle. For the first time in history, people had no access to the means that they needed to survive. The only way they could survive was by selling their bodies, their labor, for wages.
Jobs themselves, employment, is a fairly new thing. Human beings used to make stuff and trade it and sell it. And when we couldn't really trade anymore because it was too complicated, we developed market monies, these kind of almost like poker chips that were issued in the morning and might expire by the end of the day, but it allowed people to exchange goods with all sorts of other people. And that's when we got the middle class. As the people got wealthy, the aristocracy got relatively poorer. So they made trade illegal. They established something called the chartered monopoly, which meant you were only allowed to do business in a certain sector if you were chartered by the king. So if you used to be a shoemaker who made shoes and sold them at the market, now you had to go work as an employee of His Majesty's Royal Shoe Company. You would travel to the city or go live in the city, and instead of selling the value you created, you would sell your time. And it's really the first time since slavery that people were indentured. It's when the clock tower went up in the medieval town and when employment was born. And, 4, 5, 6 centuries later, we just think of having a job and working for some company. It's just the way you make income.